This year, La Course departed from its usual Paris circuit race and headed to the Alps, ahead 67 kilometres to a summit finish on the mighty Col d'Izoire.
Distance doesn't really matter if you have a climb in the end like this, and I expect also attacks in the beginning, because there will be teams that want to be in the escape before we hit the Izoire.
With the final climb at the end, it makes it a really special and unique race. I think we've talked about key moments in the meeting of what the climb is like. I think most of the other girls have ridden and know the climb. So really looking forward to it.
I think if you have to go into the red too early in the race, I mean, you'll never get out of it. So it's going to be interesting to see, how everyone races, and I think the last 2Ks for sure, if there is a small group together, I think that can be a big deciding point.
The riders headed out on what was untested ground for many, the fierce Izoire climb at the end running for a length rarely seen in the women's calendar. But before that, plenty of riders tried to force a break, but few were able to achieve more than fracturing the peloton. In fact, it was only until the race started, on the long drag up to the finish with 27 kilometres left to ride, that Linda Willemsen flew around the outside in an attack that no one could follow. Boels Dolmans took control at the front to set up their leaders Megan Guarnier and Lizzie Dynan. They were keen to keep a proficient time trialist such as Willemsen in check, as she had already amassed a lead of 45 seconds. The Veloconcept rider maintained the gap as the hairpins began, looking to take plenty of distance from the rest before reaching the official climb. A trio set off in pursuit: Tatiana Ryabchenko, Anna Cristina Sanabria Sanchez, and behind Rosella Ratto. Dynan took to the front to up the speed even more, with some of the very best athletes sticking to her wheel. The group broke apart behind. Two chasers were reeled in. Civetto Justa's Sanabria Sanchez continued to gain on Willemsen, but the pair were rapidly losing ground and were soon brought back. The leaders decreased as the race hit the climb proper. Home favourite Pauline Ferrand-Prévot was left stranded. With 8 kilometres to go and most of the steepest parts of the climb yet to be tackled, even the top race favourites lost grip. Ashley Norman-Passio trailed the front group, and while Dynan pushed on, her teammate Guarnier fell back. The 2016 Women's World Tour champion kept a steady pace to make up the deficit. Matching her was Japanese champion Eri Yonamine, and ahead of them was Amanda Spratt, looking to help teammate Annemiek van Vleuten. As the race wound its way among the trees, a group was formed. 3 teams had 2 riders each: Boels Dolmans, Orica Scott and FTJ. Alongside them, Kasia Niewiadoma and Elisa Longo-Borghini, as well as Lauren Stevens and breakmaker Sanabria Sanchez. Dynan persisted at the front, calmly setting a brutal tempo for the rest. And then, with 5 kilometres to go, an attack from Van Vleuten. In characteristic bike-swinging style, the Orica Scott rider put in a surging turn of speed, like the one she unleashed so many times at the Giro Rosa. Behind her, the British champion was quick to dash to her wheel, but behind that, Niewiadoma succumbed to the acceleration. A trio tried to chase on, but Van Vleuten was fired up, bursting forward yet again. This time, the Dutchwoman pushed on and away, metre by metre towards the summit. Longo-Borghini was locked in her own fight to make it back to Dynan and Shara Gillow. With only 4 kilometres to go, Van Vleuten continued to put the seconds into her opponents. She had an advantage of 38 seconds, and after being unable to topple Anna van der Breggen for the overall at the Giro Rosa, she was on the hunt for an outright win. But Dynan, without an individual Women's World Tour win this season, was similarly determined, dropping Longo-Borghini again in the process. With 3 kilometres to go, Van Vleuten had amassed a significant margin, but Dynan, leaving Gillow in her wake, began to chip away at it. Van Vleuten stumbled, a dropped chain briefly slowing her surge. Gillow, paying for her early efforts, continued to plunge backwards, while Italian champion Longo-Borghini rallied yet again. Only a kilometre left, the finish was in sight high upon the mountainside, but with gradients staying around 10%, Van Vleuten had to dig deep. Head bowed to the road, she had 3 hairpins between her and the finish. Dynan would get the most combative award for heading the pack for so much of the early climb. But with only 200 metres to go, it would be Van Vleuten's victory to savour. She rounded the final corner, summoning enough energy to greet the crowds in celebration. And with one final push to cross the line, she held her arms aloft. A resounding show of strength to give the Orica Scott rider her third Women's World Tour victory this month. Dynan came in 43 seconds down. Longo Borghini finished third.
So hard, yeah. Especially because I attacked so early. I know that if you wait for the last kilometer, I could also have done that. That's a bit more easy and less long in the hurt box. But I know the course, and you know that I did know that there were some bit steeper parts coming up, so I felt like this is a good spot to go.
I think I probably had more of an advantage than I expected to, just from the fact that I train at home in Monaco. You know, I'm climbing up mountains all the time. It's what I'm used to. I'm used to doing hours of efforts rather than kind of the other races that we're used to. So I suppose I had a small advantage in that way.
It was a tough climb, indeed. I knew I had to manage my ascent. I looked at my power meter and went always steady. Thinking about how many kilos of ice cream I ate after the Giro, I'm pretty satisfied.
Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig keeps the Women's World Tour youth jersey, while an absent Anna van der Breggen stays as Women's World Tour leader. And in the race results, after falling behind on the climb, Guarnier fought back to claim fourth ahead of Gillow. In the Women's World Tour rankings, Van Vleuten moves up to second, while Guarnier enters the top 10. And in the youth standings, Ludwig maintains an imposing lead on her rivals.